The bright morning sun glinted off the glass windows of the towering skyscrapers, casting a warm glow over the busy city streets below. Clara stood outside the imposing building, her heart racing as she adjusted the borrowed tie around her neck. It felt foreign against her skin, a reminder of the stakes she faced today. She took a deep breath, recalling her mother's encouraging words that echoed in her mind. "Stand tall, Clara. Life will challenge you, but you have the strength to rise above." With a final glance at her reflection in the window, she pushed through the revolving doors, her nerves twisting in her stomach. The lobby was bustling with people in sharp suits and polished shoes, all moving with purpose. Clara felt small in comparison, her casual attire a stark contrast to the polished environment. She could see her own reflection in the marble floors, a timid figure among giants. As she made her way to the interview room, Clara's thoughts raced. What if she wasn't good enough? What if they saw her as just another candidate with a dream too big for her reality? She shook her head, trying to dispel the doubts. She had come too far to turn back now. When she finally entered the interview room, Clara's breath caught in her throat. Sitting behind a sleek, modern desk was Eleanor, a woman whose reputation preceded her. Eleanor was known for her sharp intellect and even sharper tongue. Clara could feel her confidence waver as she locked eyes with the interviewer. Eleanor looked at Clara with a dismissive sneer, her expression a mixture of disbelief and disdain. "Do you really think you can compete for a position here?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. "This place isn't for people like you." The words hit Clara like a punch to the gut. She felt the heat rise to her cheeks, a deep sense of humiliation washing over her. It was as if the walls of the room closed in around her, and the bright sunlight outside became a distant memory. Clara stood there, frozen, grappling with the sting of Eleanor's words. But beneath the surface, something else began to stir, a fire ignited by the need to prove herself. Clara clenched her fists, her mind racing. She had fought too hard to get here, to let one person's harsh judgment define her worth. She thought of her mother's voice again, the way it always encouraged her to keep pushing forward. "Thank you for your time," Clara finally managed to say, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She turned to leave, but not before Eleanor's mocking laughter echoed in her ears. As Clara stepped back into the hallway, she took a moment to collect herself. The bright lights of the lobby seemed to shine even brighter now, illuminating her path. She knew she had to remember this moment, not as a defeat, but as a spark for her journey ahead. What would she do next? How could she turn this humiliation into strength? These questions swirled in her mind as she left the building, the sun still shining brightly, unaware of the battle that raged within her. Clara walked away, her heart pounding, but this time with determination. She would not let Eleanor's words define who she was. This was only the beginning. Each step she took felt like a promise to herself, a promise to rise, to fight, and to prove that she belonged in that world, no matter the obstacles. The day had started with uncertainty, but it would not end there. Clara was ready to confront the challenges ahead, fueled by a newfound resolve to carve her own path. How would she turn this moment into a stepping stone for her future? The answers awaited her just beyond the horizon, and she was ready to seek them out. As Clara stepped through the door of her small apartment, the weight of the day crashed down on her. The bright sun that had shone so fiercely earlier now faded behind the buildings, casting long shadows across her living room. She dropped her bag on the floor and sank into the worn-out sofa. Her heart raced, still echoing the harsh words of Eleanor. "This place isn't for people like you." The phrase replayed in her mind like a broken record. Taking a deep breath, Clara closed her eyes. "I won't let her define me," she whispered to herself. The sting of humiliation still lingered, but it fueled her resolve. She thought of her mother's words, spoken so many times during her childhood. "Stand tall, Clara. You are stronger than you think." Clara opened her eyes and glanced around her apartment. It was small, but filled with memories. Pictures of her friends adorned the walls, capturing moments of laughter and joy. Each photo reminded her of the small victories she had achieved, the times when she felt proud of herself. Those moments felt distant now, but they were still there, waiting for her to remember them. "Remember the time you got that scholarship?" she said aloud, a hint of a smile forming on her lips. "And that time you completed that tough project at school?" Clara could almost hear her friends cheering her on, their faces bright with encouragement. These memories ignited a spark within her, pushing away the dark cloud that Eleanor's words had cast. Meanwhile, across town, Eleanor sat in her luxurious apartment, surrounded by designer furniture and expensive decorations. Yet, despite the opulence, her heart felt heavy. The laughter from the party she had just attended echoed in her ears, but it felt hollow. "What am I doing?" she muttered, staring at her reflection in the glass of her high-rise window. The city glimmered outside, but she felt lost in the chaos. Eleanor ran a hand through her hair, frustration bubbling inside her. She thought about Clara and the pain she had caused. "Did I really need to be so cruel?" she questioned, her voice barely above a whisper. Guilt crept into her mind, reminding her of her own childhood. She remembered her parents' constant pressure to be perfect, to always win. "Maybe I'm not as different from Clara as I thought," she murmured, a pang of realization hitting her. In the days that followed, Clara decided to join a women's support group. It was a small gathering, filled with women who shared their stories and uplifted one another. As she stepped into the room for the first time, she felt nervous but determined. "I need this," she told herself. "Welcome," a friendly voice called out. Clara looked up to see a woman with warm eyes and an inviting smile. "I'm Sarah. We're so glad you're here." Clara nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. "Thank you. I'm Clara." The group began to share their experiences, and Clara listened intently. Each story was different, yet she could feel the common thread of struggle and resilience. When it was her turn, she took a deep breath and spoke about her interview, about Eleanor's cruel words. "I know I can rise above this," she stated, her voice steady. "I won't let her win." As Clara found strength in the group, Eleanor found herself alone with her thoughts. She sought help to confront her childhood traumas, attending therapy sessions where she learned to unpack her emotions. "I didn't realize how much pressure I was under," she confessed to her therapist one afternoon. "It's like I've been living a lie." "Understanding your past is the first step to change," her therapist replied gently. "You have the power to rewrite your story." The journey was not easy for either woman. Clara continued to work hard, letting the support group inspire her, while Eleanor wrestled with her guilt and the emptiness of her lifestyle. As Clara looked to the future with hope, Eleanor began to glimpse the possibility of a different kind of fulfillment. With each passing day, their paths began to shift, leading them both toward unexpected transformations. Clara's determination grew, while Eleanor's introspection deepened, setting the stage for a new chapter in their lives. Clara walked into her new office with a mix of excitement and nerves. The bright lights and open space felt welcoming, and she took a deep breath, ready to start this new chapter in her life. Her colleagues greeted her with warm smiles, and she felt the weight of her past slowly lifting. Clara was determined to prove herself, not just to Eleanor, but to herself as well. As days turned into weeks, Clara's hard work began to pay off. She tackled each task with care and enthusiasm. Her manager, a kind woman named Sarah, often praised her efforts. "Clara, your ideas are refreshing. Keep it up," Sarah would say during team meetings, making Clara's heart swell with pride. The encouragement from her colleagues fueled Clara's confidence, and she felt she was finally in a place where she belonged. Meanwhile, Eleanor lived in a different world. She attended lavish parties, surrounded by glamorous people dressed in designer clothes. But as she sipped her expensive champagne, a sense of loneliness crept in. The laughter and chatter around her felt hollow. She often glanced at her phone, wondering what Clara was doing. The contrast between their lives weighed heavily on Eleanor's heart. "Why can't I feel happy?" Eleanor whispered to herself one night, staring into the mirror. She noticed the tiredness in her eyes and the forced smile on her lips. The parties, which once brought her joy, now felt empty. She missed the genuine connections, the warmth of true friendship. The more she thought about Clara, the more she realized how much she envied her strength. One evening, as Clara was preparing for a networking event, she received an email that made her heart race. The invitation was from a popular organization, and it mentioned that Eleanor would also be attending. Clara stared at the screen, her mind swirling with emotions, excitement mixed with anxiety. Would she have to face Eleanor again? How would she respond if their paths crossed? As the day of the event arrived, Clara put on her best outfit and took a deep breath. She reminded herself of her journey. I have come so far, she thought. I will not let anyone's opinion bring me down. With a determined heart, she stepped into the venue, which was filled with bright lights and chatter. Eleanor felt the tension in the air as she arrived. She was dressed elegantly, but her mind was racing. What should she say to Clara? Would Clara even want to speak to her after everything? As she entered the room, she scanned the crowd, hoping to catch a glimpse of Clara. When their eyes finally met, time seemed to stand still. Clara felt her heart pound in her chest. Eleanor approached, her expression vulnerable. Clara, she began, her voice shaking slightly. I know I was cruel to you. I'm really sorry. Clara took a moment to gather her thoughts. She could see the sincerity in Eleanor's eyes. Thank you for saying that, Clara replied gently. I appreciate your honesty. It wasn't easy for me to hear your words, but I've learned to rise above them. Eleanor's shoulders relaxed a little. I've been thinking a lot about my actions. I grew up in a bubble, and I didn't realize how my words could hurt others. I see now that I was wrong. Clara nodded, understanding the weight of those words. We all have our battles, she said. I've had to fight my own demons, but I've found strength in my journey. It has changed me. They stood there for a moment, both women reflecting on their paths. The tension that once filled the air began to dissipate. Can we start over? Eleanor asked softly. I want to learn from you and support you in any way I can. Clara smiled, feeling a sense of warmth growing between them. I would like that, she replied. Let's share our stories. You might find that we have more in common than we think. As they began to talk, the noise of the event faded into the background. They shared laughter and tears, discovering layers of each other's lives that they had never seen before. In that moment, the barriers that separated them began to crumble, paving the way for a new understanding. In the midst of the crowd, Clara and Eleanor found a connection that neither had anticipated. It was a new beginning, and both women could feel the shift inside them, one that promised hope and change. The atmosphere in the grand hall was electric, filled with chatter, laughter, and the soft clinking of glasses. Clara stood near the entrance, her heart pounding as she looked around. She had come a long way from the nervous woman who had faced Eleanor months ago. Now she wore a confident smile and a dress that made her feel powerful. Yet, the thought of seeing Eleanor again sent a wave of anxiety through her. Just breathe, Clara whispered to herself, adjusting her hair in the mirror. She took a deep breath and stepped into the crowd. As she mingled, she felt the warmth of her colleagues' support. They were genuinely happy for her success, and their encouragement filled her with strength. Across the room, Eleanor felt out of place. She stood with a glass of champagne in her hand, surrounded by people who laughed and joked, but their words felt hollow to her. The glitz and glamour of the event did little to fill the emptiness she felt inside. She had spent so much time pretending, but the mask was starting to crack. Eleanor's eyes scanned the crowd, and then she spotted Clara. Clara looked different, more confident, and Eleanor felt a knot in her stomach. The woman she had dismissed so easily before now stood as a beacon of strength. As Clara moved closer, Eleanor took a deep breath. Clara, she called out, her voice shaky but determined. Clara turned, surprise etched on her face. She had not expected Eleanor to approach her. Eleanor, Clara replied cautiously, her heart racing. The memory of their last encounter still stung. I need to talk to you, Eleanor said, stepping forward. The crowd around them faded into the background as all eyes turned to the two women. Clara hesitated, unsure of what to say. "Okay," she finally said, her voice steady. "What do you want to talk about?" "I want to apologize," Eleanor said, her voice softening. "I was so wrong to treat you the way I did. I let my insecurities get the best of me." Clara studied Eleanor's face, noticing the vulnerability behind her polished exterior. "I appreciate that," Clara replied, her tone more open now. "I've been working hard to prove myself, and your words hurt, but they also pushed me to grow." Eleanor nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I've been thinking about how I treated you. I had everything, and yet I felt so empty inside. I realize now that I was projecting my own fears onto you." Clara felt a wave of empathy wash over her. "I understand that pressure. I've faced my own challenges. It's tough when everyone expects you to fit into a certain mold." Eleanor looked surprised. "You really think so?" "I do," Clara responded. "We all have our battles. Yours were just different from mine." As they spoke, a small group began to gather around them, intrigued by the exchange. Clara and Eleanor had inadvertently become the center of attention, but neither woman noticed. They were too wrapped up in their conversation. "What if we could help each other?" Eleanor suggested. "I can use my connections to support causes that matter to women like us. You have a voice that can inspire others. Together, we could make a difference." Clara's heart raced at the thought. "That sounds incredible, but can we really work together after everything?" Eleanor smiled faintly. "Why not? We both want to empower others. Let's turn our past into something positive." Clara felt a warmth spread through her. "I'd like that," she replied, her spirit lifting. "We could start with a charity event to raise awareness for women's issues." "Yes," Eleanor exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Let's plan something amazing." As they exchanged ideas, the tension that once defined their relationship melted away. Clara and Eleanor found common ground, bonding over their shared experiences and dreams. They were no longer just a former bully and her victim. They were two women on a journey toward understanding and growth. As the night progressed, Clara felt lighter. She had faced her fears and found strength in an unexpected friendship. Eleanor, too, felt a shift within her, a realization that change was possible and that true connection could heal old wounds. The unlikely reunion had sparked a new beginning for both women, setting the stage for a partnership that could change not just their lives, but the lives of many others. After the unexpected reunion at the networking event, Clara felt a new sense of purpose blossoming within her. The conversation with Eleanor had opened her eyes to the potential of her own voice. Inspired by their encounter, she decided to take action. Clara began to share her story more openly, not just with friends, but also in her professional life. She knew that her experiences could empower others facing similar struggles. At a local women's conference, Clara stood at the podium, her heart racing with excitement and nerves. She looked out at the crowd and saw women from different backgrounds, all eager to hear her story. Taking a deep breath, she began, "I stand before you today, not just as a survivor, but as a believer in our strength. Each of us has faced challenges that seemed insurmountable, but together, we can rise." The audience listened intently, hanging on her every word. Clara spoke about her humiliation during the interview with Eleanor and how it ignited a fire within her. "I refuse to let someone else's words define my worth. We all have the power to change our narrative." As she shared her journey, Clara noticed nods of agreement, eyes glistening with understanding. It was clear that her story resonated with many. Meanwhile, Eleanor was on a different path. She had spent the last few weeks reflecting deeply on her life choices. The guilt from her past actions weighed heavily on her. Determined to make amends, she reached out to local charities that helped vulnerable populations. "I want to do something meaningful," she told the charity director, a kind woman named Sarah. "I realize now how important it is to use my influence for good." Sarah smiled, impressed by Eleanor's sincerity. "We would love to have your support. There are many ways you can help: fundraising, awareness campaigns, or even sharing your story?" Eleanor nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. She was ready to make a difference. As the weeks passed, Clara and Eleanor found themselves in a unique position. They both were working towards similar goals, albeit in their own ways. Clara was busy planning workshops for women, while Eleanor was organizing charity events to raise funds for those in need. One day, while brainstorming ideas for a workshop, Clara received a call from Eleanor. "Hey, Clara, I have an idea," Eleanor said, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "What if we combine our efforts? I'm planning a charity event, and I think your story and leadership would inspire many. We could work together." Clara was taken aback. "You really want to collaborate?" she asked, a mix of surprise and excitement in her voice. "Absolutely. I believe we can create something powerful together," Eleanor replied. "Our journeys, though different, can unite to make a bigger impact." After a moment of contemplation, Clara agreed. "Let's do it. Together, we can reach more people and show them that change is possible." The two women met frequently to brainstorm ideas for the charity event. They discussed themes, potential guest speakers, and how to best share their stories. Clara felt a bond forming with Eleanor, built on mutual respect and understanding. They were no longer just two women from different worlds. They were allies. As the event date approached, they worked tirelessly to promote it. Clara shared her excitement on social media, while Eleanor utilized her connections to reach a wider audience. "This is going to be amazing," Clara said one afternoon as they finalized the guest list. "I can't wait to see how many lives we can touch." On the day of the event, the venue was buzzing with energy. Women from all walks of life gathered, eager to hear Clara and Eleanor speak. As they took the stage together, Clara felt a swell of pride. They had transformed from adversaries into partners in change. "Thank you all for being here," Clara began, her voice strong and confident. "Today, we celebrate not just our successes, but also our journeys. Together, we can empower each other and create a better future." Eleanor chimed in. "Let's lift each other up and make a difference in our communities. Our pasts may be different, but our goals unite us." The audience erupted in applause, and Clara looked at Eleanor, a smile spreading across her face. This was just the beginning of their journey together, a journey fueled by empathy, understanding, and a shared commitment to uplift others. The day of the charity event arrived, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Clara stood in front of a mirror backstage, adjusting her dress. The bright lights and the sound of voices filled the air, but all she could feel was a mix of nerves and pride. She took a deep breath, remembering how far she had come. "Clara, you look amazing," said Jessica, her friend and fellow organizer. Jessica's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "You are going to inspire so many people tonight." "Thanks, Jess. I just hope everything goes smoothly," Clara replied, her voice steady but her heart racing. As Clara stepped out onto the stage, she felt a surge of energy from the crowd. She looked out and saw familiar faces, all there to support the cause they believed in. She could see Eleanor near the front, wearing a stunning outfit. The two women exchanged smiles, a silent acknowledgement of their journey together. "Welcome, everyone," Clara began, her voice echoing in the hall. "Tonight, we gather not only to raise funds, but to share stories of hope and resilience. Each of us has faced challenges, and together we can make a difference." The crowd erupted in applause, and Clara felt a wave of confidence wash over her. She continued, "I want to share my story. A few months ago, I felt lost and humiliated after a tough job interview. It was a time when I doubted myself the most. But I found strength in my friends and in my own determination. I learned that our struggles can lead us to incredible places." Eleanor watched Clara speak, her heart swelling with admiration. She remembered the day she had met Clara at the networking event, the day that had changed everything for her. With each word Clara spoke, Eleanor felt a deeper connection to her. After Clara finished her speech, she stepped down, and Eleanor took the stage. "I want to thank Clara for her powerful words," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I also have a story to share. I have lived a life filled with privilege, but I had lost sight of what truly matters. I hurt people, and for that, I am deeply sorry. But I am here tonight to make a change, to use my resources to support those who need it most. The audience listened intently, and Eleanor could feel the weight of their attention. I have learned that empathy is essential. We all have our battles, and it is our responsibility to lift each other up, she continued, her eyes scanning the crowd for Clara. Tonight, let us work together to create a better future for everyone. As Eleanor stepped down, Clara rushed to her side. You were amazing, she said, her voice filled with warmth. Your honesty will inspire others. Thank you, Clara, Eleanor replied, her eyes glistening. I couldn't have done it without you. You showed me the power of resilience and friendship. The two women shared a moment of understanding, a bond that had grown stronger through their journey. They walked back to their tables, where guests mingled, sharing stories and laughter. Clara noticed people approaching Eleanor, eager to learn more about her new initiatives. Clara, can you believe how far we've come? Eleanor said, her voice filled with awe. It's incredible, Clara replied, her heart swelling with pride. We are making a real impact. As the night continued, Clara and Eleanor moved through the crowd, discussing their shared mission. They listened to stories from those who had benefited from their work, each tale a reminder of why they had come together. Together, we can change lives, Clara said, her voice filled with conviction. Absolutely, Eleanor agreed. Let's keep this momentum going. We have so much more to do. As the evening drew to a close, the two women stood side by side, looking out at the crowd. They felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that their friendship had evolved into something powerful. They had turned their past struggles into a shared future filled with hope and purpose. Here's to new beginnings, Clara raised her glass, a smile brightening her face. To new beginnings, Eleanor echoed, clinking her glass against Clara's. In that moment, under the bright lights of the charity event, they knew they were not just allies. They were friends, united by a common purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. Share this story if you believe that friendship and resilience can create powerful change. Leave a comment about a moment when you found strength in a friend or overcame a challenge together. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one.